John Fetterman is a sellout. If y'all don't know who John Fetterman is, he is the senator, the U.S. senator from Pennsylvania, my home state. He beat Dr. Oz in a tight race, which was partially a tight race. And Fetterman was known as somebody who people weren't sure about. He didn't dress like everybody else. He wore hoodies, but he campaigned on being a progressive.
We don't have to agree on everything, but I will always tell you what I believe is the truth. I'm going to fight not for one part of Pennsylvania, not for one party of Pennsylvania, but for one Pennsylvania, just the way I did as mayor, just the way I'm doing as lieutenant governor, and just the way I would as your next U.S. senator.
The issue is he ain't no damn progressive. Last month, we can go to October, when Hamas and Israel were in the news. Fetterman doesn't say ceasefire. Fetterman doesn't say we need to condition any support of Israel on meeting certain human rights standards. He echoes AIPAC talking points. He doesn't do anything to suggest that he wants the Palestinian people to be okay. Now, lots of people have complicated politics on this. So let's not just talk about Palestine, although his position on Palestine has been disturbing. I mean, I'm not just talking middle of the road. I'm not just talking about centrist, traditional AIPAC talking, but even Bernie Sanders did that. I'm talking about he was a straight right winger, right? But let's move past that issue, because I don't want you to think this is all about Israel and Palestine, because it's not. Fetterman said that he was pro-immigration. He said that he supported sensible, reasonable, progressive immigration policy for the southern border.
The Statue of Liberty says, send us your poor huddled masses. And as long as we remain true to that original sentiment, America will continue to grow and prosper, because immigration makes America America. I'm standing in front of a mill that was built on the backs and the blood, sweat, tears, and lives of immigrants that built this country. We diminish ourselves and are never more un-American when we eliminate citizenship for those that just simply want to contribute and be a part of our great country.
And now, all of a sudden, he says, and I'm going to quote this to you, it is a reasonable conversation until somebody can say there's an explanation of what we can do when 270,000 people are being encountered on the border, not including the ones, of course, that we don't know about. To put that in reference, that is essentially the size of Pittsburgh, the second largest city in Pennsylvania. So in other words, he's trying to scare people into believing that there's mobs of Mexicans the size of Pittsburgh coming into the area. And Senate Republicans are echoing everything he's saying. Senate Republicans are also doing something else. They are pushing a bill that says that at the same time that we give aid to Israel, and at the same time that we give aid to Ukraine, we must also impose these draconian immigration laws. In other words, they know nobody's going to vote against Israel. They know nobody's going to vote against Ukraine. So they're saying, you know what, let's smuggle in some anti-immigrant at the southern border policy as well. And guess what Fetterman said? He said it's not ideal, but we need to have the conversation. In other words, Fetterman is not a progressive. And this isn't my conjecture. Everybody ain't got to be a progressive. But Fetterman explicitly says, and I quote, I am not a progressive. This is what he told to NBC News. I just think I'm a Democrat that is very committed to choice and other things. But with Israel, I'm going to be on the right side of that. And immigration is something near and dear to me, and I think we have to effectively address it as well. Basically, he's just saying he's pro-choice. Other than that, he's quite the moderate Republican. I'm not a progressive. Now, that's fair. Again, everybody ain't got to be a progressive. Everybody ain't got to be a progressive. But guess what? He campaigned as a progressive. April 27, 2016, he ran for Senate. And he said, we have started a progressive movement here in Pennsylvania. It's not going away. We're not going away. This isn't over. This is not how our story ends. 2 years later, 2018, he runs for lieutenant governor. He wins. Do you know what he runs as? A progressive. He tweets about May 15th. right, when he's running for lieutenant governor. He says, chip in whatever you can to help us take this progressive momentum all the way to the ballot box on May 15th. He says, progressive, simple, sacred, the union way of life. And you got this big, bald white guy with hoodies and boots walking around talking about he supports the union and he's progressive. That's a vision. That's a very clear picture that he's painting for people about what he is. You can't just tweet John Fetterman, I'm not a progressive. Matter of factly, as if we have unfair, unreasonable expectations of you, as if we have placed upon you something that you didn't want. You ran as a progressive. You fought as a progressive. You dressed yourself up as a progressive. You stood next to Bernie Sanders as a progressive. You got endorsements as a progressive. And the moment you get into Congress, this is what you do. You sold out the progressive movement. You sold out the Democratic Party. You sold out the vulnerable. John Fetterman is a fraud, politically speaking. And John Fetterman should be voted out at the very first opportunity by real progressives who want their values, want their political agenda, want their worldviews affirmed by the people who run for office claiming to represent them. Again, I'm not mad at him for not being a progressive. I'm mad at him for being a liar. And John Fetterman has finally admitted that he is a liar.